Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim!
Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, I have the presentation that has two parts. One is the pictures, the other is the book. Pictures are clear, merry, and the documents of a wonderful story. These will be going on a slideshow. Unfortunately, what I'll be saying won't be so clear, so wide, so happy. We are much more hopeful, but of course, one really needs a great heart to be so hopeful. Imre Makovecz was a colorful, diverse personality. However, now we will only deal with his dramatic character. Can I ask you to turn the lights off, because it will be much better.
Hangosabb leszek, megígérem.
I will. So.
A kép a fontosabb szerintem. Antoni Gaudihoz hasonlóan ő is olyan magasságokban mozgott, ami legtöbbünk számára követhetetlen. Ez a valódi művészet lényege, olyan esszenciális tartalmat közvetít, ami nem a hétköznapi módon lépésről lépésre érik meg bennünk, hanem bensőnket közvetlen kapcsolattal villámszerűen érinti. Életművének vitathatatlan csúcsa a Szent Mihály templom. A tervezés, a modellezés eddigi történetének képeit vetítjük, míg drámájának, az építés drámájának mozgató rugóit próbálom röviden összefoglalni. Barcelona példájáról, Jordi Bonné mestert külön üdvözölve, a magyar nemzeti építészet profétáiról, a kiválasztottról, a test és lélek erejéről és a templom drámájáról beszélve. Közben a történet rajzai képein aprószerűen peregnek a háttérben. Elsőként tehát Barcelona példájáról. Köszöntöm nagylelkű támogatónk, Antoni Gaudi utódjának, Jordi Bonné mesternek a megjelenését. Hát akkor mit csináljak? Akkor várok egy kicsit. Addig tessenek a képeket nézni, úgyis ez a fontos. Nagyon sok van. Tehát köszönjük még egyszer Bonné mesternek, hogy itt van köztünk. Isten áldja. Az Antoni Gaudi tervei alapján a 20. század elején megkezdett, és ma Jordi Bonné építész úr vezetése alatt épülő barcelonai Sagrada Familia katedrális története példaértékű. Gaudi, a zseniális nemzetéért élő építész, és a büszke, bátor katalán nemzeti
architect, and it is the victory of the proud and courageous Catalonian nation. They knew that for their nation to be elevated, they do not need to repeat the seemingly elegant gestures of other nations, but they have to create their own national culture, rooted in their own past and their culture. The world is full and abundant in technically well resolved, but otherwise rootless and in size huge yet insignificant buildings. Professionally speaking, these buildings look good, however they have little artistic content, and they have basically no bond to the society into which they were created. They are not parts of the national conscience. They are alien bodies. They are provisory. They are provisory. Unfortunately, Hungary is no different. Unfortunately, municipal Budapest politics did not understand that architecture is not only a civilizational issue, but it is also there is also a need for far outstanding creations to be excellent. While in Barcelona it was Gaudi, in Brussels it was Horta, in Berlin it was Schinkel, and they had their buildings define the city landscape. And also the turn of the century Budapest is fantastic with its exemplary Lechner buildings. We will not find any Makovecz houses in the capital of the turn of the millennium. It is interesting if you look at the parallel of the two Nordic people desiring independence. In Bilbao, you have gigantic investments drawn by foreign star architects, which are well known globally, but have not become part of the national genius of the Basque people. However, Barcelona would be inconceivable without the works of Gaudi, which have become cornerstones of the Catalonian national conscience and have become elements of the architectural mother tongue. It is well known what kind of significance Catalonian architecture gathered in universal architecture, how dominant it has become in European culture, why, unfortunately, this cannot be said about Basque architecture, even with the best intent. The prophets of national architecture. The drama of Hungarian architecture is the same with that of the nation. At the halfway through the 1,000-year existence of our Christian nation, half a millennium ago, on the morning of the early New Age, Hungary was occupied by Islamic hordes who have erased the shining memories of the medieval age. After they were made to flee, there was a continuous fight against the occupiers. There came the Baroque, the classicists, and historic masters working at a high level to create again a European milieu. Instead, replacing foreign masters, Hungarian architects took into their hands the design of our most important public buildings. It was after the compromise that this contemporary Budapest was built. Within a few years, good-handed, talented masters built a global city. More and more, there was the increasing desire of creating a national architecture in our leading architects. Good example for this is this building, which was designed by Frigyes Fesszl. On the turn of the century, Ödön Lechner became the messiah of the prophet of the Hungarian architecture. He studied for decades at Western universities and ateliers. He was extremely talented, brilliant sense for form, and returning home, he created our long-sought architectural mother tongue. His style created a school, and his public buildings still are rich elements of our capital. After the First World War that we lost and the Versailles Treaty, the very talented and successful Károly Kós chose to live in Transylvania, as his entire life was devoted to creating the intellectual unity of our nation through architecture, which actually transcends actual political borders and keeps us, preserves us Hungarians in our culture and in our heart, and creates a school. His emblematic public buildings are still erect in the capital. After the Second World War, again we had barbaric Eastern occupiers who have forced us into Stalin's Baroque, and then after into the modernization of buildings, while in our suburbs we had inhuman panel ghettos, and later on with the easing of the terror, completely ruthless kitsch. The selected, the chosen. Among the masters of Hungarian architecture, there were epochal geniuses born every century. There's this young architect who appears in the opportunist Kádár's Hungary, Imre Makovecz, who starts drawing such proud buildings which radiate the strength of the spirit and
brilliáns formakészségű.
patriotism. He is an extremely talented, well-prepared, brilliant designer who is full of patriotism. The recipe is the same with Lechner. The knowledge is Western, the heart is Hungarian. And this mentality, however, becomes a forbidden category in Kádár's barak, because he is committed. His commitment is accompanied by excellent skills of form, and it is impossible to marginalize him. Contrary to the stupidity of this country, the global world appreciates him and starts recognizing Hungarian organic architecture, publications, exhibitions, biennales, and a series of invitations. Imre Makovecz is selected among the members of great Western academies, and he is flooded with different decorations. Visiting Hungary, the successor to the British throne visits him in the offices of Frank Gehry. He receives such international recognition like no other architect. He becomes part of the Hungarian history of architecture. He starts representing something that is only becoming important nowadays. His architecture is diverse, and beside the great gestures creating great emotions, you have great identification, consequent, deliberate details, and essential architecture. Today, with the loss of the Einstein's world order, the whole world is going further away from technology. As the chief architect of Hungary, I consider it my obligation to try to get to know better the architecture of our times. And based on the experiences of a lot of books, publications, travels, and also competitions, I can safely say that Imre Makovecz's architecture is original and globally known, recognized. Every culture, nation of the world has their own traditional architecture style, and every global city has its own architect genius who, without Wagner, there would be no Vienna, without Gaudi, there would be no Barcelona. It would be impossible to conceive. Besides these substantial architects, apart from also working at huge high standards, also look on their houses as an expression of intellectual content. The same is typical of the works of Lechner Ödön. He, who has spent the majority of his time at Western universities and architects' ateliers, offices, learning the highest level architecture of the time, getting back to Hungary, he uses all this knowledge to create national architecture. And despite the changes, in difference of a century, there is a great similarity in the architecture of Lechner and Makovecz. Unfortunately, there is a substantial difference. While Lechner's substantial public buildings continue to define the capital, you do not have even a trace of Makovecz in Budapest. We can only hope that the St. Michael church will be built.
Of the strength of the body and the spirit. For a quarter of a century, we have been walking on the path of a free and unbourgeoisified society, and we have been building schools and sports halls. In an able body, you has the spirit. Indeed, it is indispensable that Hungarian young people should be healthy and strong. It is important and indispensable, but this is not yet national culture. It is not yet the supporting pillars. It is only the foundations. The body is nothing more but a tool. It cannot be an end in itself. It is only the carrier of our spirit, of our soul. In addition to physical strength, we we must have the strength of the spirit and the soul, because only then will the whole acquire its true meaning. I believe that the time for this is soon to come. The purpose and the integrity of national identity is mainly shaped by our shared language. The language that is spoken, but the language that is also used by arts. This is also a mother tongue that is deeply imprinted from the very beginning of our childhoods. And this determines our identity and in an irrevocable manner. Architecture has a power to integrate a nation, and this has been evidenced by many examples in history. This expresses itself in national symbols. We have now understood the dangers of the aggressive Eastern culture that is currently overcrowding Europe. We have learned the lessons from the Ottoman Empire's occupation that ruined the Christian-rooted Hungarian culture in the Middle Ages. Our Christian-rooted culture, therefore, must not only be protected against external attacks, it has to be strengthened so that, surviving our multiple occupations, we should finally be able to live as a free country, similarly to what happened in the Iberian Peninsula after the end of the Islamic occupation. A deed strengthening this national identity could be a building complex in the city park of Budapest. If we were not to build according to the design of an alien star architect, we are uniting to protect our nation against arrogant aliens, and we want to use the work of others to be proud of ourselves. I feel ashamed now looking at the bust of Imre Makovecz. I don't think that we have come to the low levels when we need the help of external parties. We must draw the lessons of the Catalan masters, or from the Catalan masters, as well as Master Jordi Bonet. And it is quite obvious which path we have to tread on. And now the drama. I will pass away, but the nation continues to live in me. At the time of designing the cathedral, the St. Michael Church, Imre Makovecz achieved the climax of his career. It was the crown that was right for his entire life over. Perhaps years before that, when disregarding his winning design, he restarted designing this excellent cathedral. This was probably a sign of him anticipating the future. This ingenious person who was befriending the angels and who, in a self-sacrificing manner, fended off the power and the power of gold, and he gave us as his legacy the designs of the St. Michael Church. And the obligation we have to build it is a national one. Many are asking if 10 years will be sufficient to make it a reality. Perhaps, if the story of the St. Michael Church was not as dramatic as the Barcelona churches, it would have been enough. In Barcelona, at the time of the Civil War, the Red Hordes did everything in their power to prevent the church from being built. This church is able to shape the character of an entire nation. It is not an operetta as a result, but it is a drama. This drama includes major challenges and major sufferings. It will help us find our genuine self. These tests and sufferings are as important in the identity of any nation as the artistic languages. Can we expect the construction to start before the end of our lives? Yes, we can. We may hope that. But the desire is not enough. We have to perform the appropriate deeds. The huge cathedrals of the world were built for several centuries. And Antonio Gaudi's cathedral was also built in a similar number of years. And Master Boni encouraged me when I was last visiting Spain was that the most important point is the will of the nation. If that will is strong, it will overcome all the difficulties. The designs of the Sagrada Familia were burned in the Spanish Civil War. However, the builders could not be broken, and the towers are standing erect today. On the huge western bronze gate, it is in vain for you to start looking for Spanish verses. But in addition to the Catalan language, you also have the Lord's Prayer in Hungarian. Imre Makovecz often said that God Almighty builds churches when He is in a cheerful mood. He was a deep believer, but it was not counted by the number of prayers that he said. It was the closeness to angels, and it was his closeness to God that most characterized him. The fighting angels, Michael, Gabriel, were his models. He stood out from our age, which is dedicated to success and money and minor things. He suspected, moreover, he understood that the embodiment of his most important design will be watched by him from a higher sphere. And he anticipated and understood that this church will be a cornerstone for national resurrection. That is why he brought his designs to His Holiness the Pope, who blessed these designs. If God is with us, who can be against us? We have to ask ourselves the question. And even I, as a student of the church school in Pannonhalma, must do the same. Can it be so that the personal vanity of a church pontifex can be the obstacle to building a church of this kind? In retaliation for a spontaneous joke by or from a major artist. We have many examples in Hungarian history whose nation-saving and bold examples cannot be forgotten. Imre Makovecz did not need this assignment, this project. It is the nation who is badly in need of that. It was not Antoni Gaudi who profited from the fact that his genius created today's Barcelona, enriching the Catalonian national spirit. He worked in a humble way, and he was an unknown and humble person when he was hit by the tram, whereas his beloved country Barcelona continues to flourish even today. Hope is the last to die. Gábor Mezei, Miklós Meloko, László Péterfi, Judith Bosko, Miklós Buda are important artists and architects. And I would also like to remember my young students from the depths of our heart, without a contract, but engaged in strengthening one another. We have been working on these designs for several years. The designs were blessed by the Pope, the family, the Arts Academy in Hungary. Our sponsors have been doing everything in their power to make it a reality. It will not depend on us. In closing, allow me to thank our patron, Katalin Makrai, who said the following: I do not know if this church will be built in our life, but I know for sure that we have to do everything we can, because this is a historical opportunity. This civilian initiative to me signifies that the nation is able to unite. I think it is a huge step by itself that the nation has had the power to do so. If the society is preparing for the construction of a cathedral of this kind, it means that it is able to mobilize its spiritual and material and intellectual reserves, and this means that it is able to build and think in the long term. And if that is so, this nation is capable of a lot more than we have given it credit for. Thank you.